Wes, I'd like for you to take a look at the clothes and maybe the shoes that you're wearing right now, or at least think about them for a second. Do you know who made these clothes? Do you know what that person was paid? Do you know what country they were made in? If you're anything like me, the answer to that question is likely no. And this is the reality of the fashion industry today, an industry that has been completely defined by a lack of connection between the original producer of our goods and us as the end consumer.
We love our clothes. Now so cheap, you can make a different statement every day.
These things are $3?
Tons annually. Wind up in the trash within a year or two because they are too low quality to last any longer. A changing trend.
World, oftentimes our products are cut in one location, assembled in another, and have to cross multiple oceans before they end up in our hands. In order to get the textures and the colors that we love in our clothing requires a lot of chemicals. And with very little regulation, these chemicals have gotten uglier and uglier over time. And throughout the dyeing process, a tremendous amount of fresh water is used and wasted. And oftentimes, as depicted here, these chemicals end up right back into our freshwater systems.
Havoc on the environment. It's widely agreed that no more than 30% of a river should be drawn off to avoid serious ecological consequences, but northern China is now full of dry riverbeds, and many areas across China face similar problems. It's
that when we're talking about food being thrown away, we're not talking about rotten stuff. We're not talking about stuff that's beyond the pale. We're talking about good, fresh food that is being wasted on a colossal scale. And that's what I came up with. If you include not just the food that ends up in shops and restaurants, but also the food that people feed to livestock, the maize, the soy, the wheat, that humans could eat, but choose to fatten livestock instead to produce increasing amounts of meat and dairy products, what you find is that most rich countries have between 3 and 4 times the amount of food that their population needs to feed itself.
Even slightly subpar fruits and vegetables don't make it to the produce aisle. Every time that the people are picking, they'll have a few they throw on the ground because there's always a few that aren't
Supermarkets
quite
lose
perfect.
$50 billion every year. Sometimes up to 30% of the food lies unharvested because of market fluctuations or pests or because it's not the right size, shape, or color. One peach farmer told us that 8 out of 10 peaches he can't sell, you couldn't even tell the difference. Can't we do something with the second fruit?
Who throw away sometimes a third or even more of their harvest because of cosmetic standards. This farmer, for example, has invested £16,000 in growing spinach, not one leaf of which he harvested, because there was a little bit of grass growing in amongst it.
Rob Greenfield, and I am a dumpster diver. Now, at first, that might sound a little bit crazy, maybe even a little bit gross, but there's actually a very important message at the bottom of these dumpsters. This is a dumpster score in Nebraska, and this is what I found in one dumpster on a typical day. It was enough food to feed about 100 families. Took what I found to a park nearby. Usually I just had 1 or 2 days to dive as I was cycling across the country. This is 2 days worth of dumpster diving in Madison, Wisconsin. This is 2 hours of dumpster diving in Detroit. In Cleveland, I went out dumpster diving for 7 hours the night before the event, and this is what we took to Cleveland Public Square. We waste about half of all the food that we produce, which means
growing and producing the food to feed our garbage. There won't be enough food or resources by the end of the century. What is happening with the world's food today? 1/3 of all the world's food is either lost or wasted. It has been grown and produced to feed the garbage.
In the same year that I visited this factory, I went to Pakistan, where people in 2008 were going hungry as a result of a squeeze on global food supplies. We contribute to that squeeze by depositing food in bins here in Britain and elsewhere in the world. We take food off the market shelves that hungry people depend on.
Affecting the global demand for food and the global food prices. So what we do here actually does affect people on the other side of the planet. It is all connected. Imagine if every man, woman, and child on this planet had enough food. Imagine what it could do to our civilization. It could change everything. The garbage, ladies and gentlemen, it is not your garbage, it is your key. It is your personal key to change the future.